Why are you currently single? Write in the comments what you think about it, why you're lonely right now. Enjoy the show. Story 1. I have no money and live with my parents. I'm in shape in a city that is mostly obese. I'm also a vegetarian and an atheist in a city that is very religious and carnivorous. So there is a dearth of women I'd actually want to date and who'd want to date me. I can get laid easily, but getting women to actually want to date me has been extremely difficult, and I can't really blame them because they want stability. Story 2. Based on prior experience, liking me is in itself a red flag. It's to the point where if they express interest, I know they're problematically mentally ill or traumatized, and it's going to go poorly. I suspect there's also something with me where I don't act how they expect. I'm kind of unemotional and aloof. I don't do bad stuff. I don't cheat or yell about stupid stuff. I'll make you from scratch blueberry muffins and be there for you when you go through bad times. I also suspect guys are used to allowing themselves to be manipulated into serious relationships, and it's not appealing to just ask or to state you don't want it. I also don't pretend to be helpless and needy to fulfill gender norms roles. If it's not enough that I like your company for who you are, not what you can do for me, then it's not going to work. Basically, I've given up and just tell people I don't date if they ask. It's not worth the hassle. It's chill not wondering why he's not texting me back and why he won't let me tag him on social media. I regret wasting time feeling sad while they were out chasing validation with other people. Crazy how many of them have come back around saying they loved me too. You did not act like it, bro. Love is an action, not a squishy feeling you have. Story. 3 years of trauma and trust issues mean I can never fully let anyone in. So even though last year I found someone who we both appear to love each other, we were the best thing to ever happen to each other because of our pasts, I had to break it off. As even though she disagreed and, like I said, loved me, I didn't feel like I was capable of giving her all she deserved. So I ended it, so she could be free to find someone and form a stronger bond. Of course, this destroyed her at the time, but I like to think she'll find happiness. She deserves it. I even spontaneously met another girl who expressed her liking of me and wanted a relationship, but I kindly declined and explained this. So you know I'm sticking to my word. Now I know that sounds like a super edgy thing to say, but I can't help it. If I was to give a less cringe answer, I could just say how for years now, everyone I know, those in relationships, has been telling me not to get in one because of all the extra money and free time they no longer have. So those are added bonuses. Story 4, couple of reasons. I'm working 2 jobs and I'd rather spend my free time playing games ATM. I lost to my best friend of 8 years due to a stupid argument, and I'm low-key depressed and don't really want to do anything. I'm not desperate for anyone, and I could go on with my life being single. Sure, a relationship would be nice, but I can manage on my own. My last relationship didn't last long due to my depression, and now I'm embarrassed to even ask anyone out without this issue haunting me. Story 5. Not just one thing, I'm sure. I should have tried harder when I was younger. I always just thought I would stumble onto the right person without a lot of effort. Very introverted, a lot of hobbies, drawn to some combination of intelligence, creativity, and altruism that seems elusive in general, but more so in the smaller town I'm in. On rare instances, I find what I'm looking for. I'm not what they want, but I'm close enough to be their emotional support animal for a bit. Story 6. My life is currently stagnant. Haven't done any new experiences or went out of my way to seek love as I'm not very good at that. Every relationship so far didn't get to the point where I can define them relationship. I'm probably going to move out to study next year, so I will finally meet some new people. Hasn't happened for 3 years. I also think that even if I'd like to be with someone, I am not ready for it, RN, as it would probably just trauma dump them to oblivion, and that's not cool. Story 7. 'Cause my ex-boyfriend sabotaged our relationship. He projected his own feelings onto me and had me thinking I did something wrong. I built that entire relationship and I was the one keeping it healthy. A relationship can't be one-sided and happy. It sucks to think about the fact that he asked me out then. I had to build the rest all on my own. He also broke up with me because he had already been emotionally cheating on me, but thought I was emotionally cheating on him. I told him about any conversation I had with another guy and would cut anyone off to make him feel more comfortable, and told other people about it instead of coming to me with the issue. I found out a lot after we broke up, and even though it hurts because I would have done anything for him, it was probably for the best. Story 8. Scared of marriage? I blame this on my father, who had an affair and did severe damage to the family. Although deep down I know I have an unsatisfied craving for love, I have friends and a few family members who aren't having happy marriage relationships and would openly complain about their relationships and their spouses. I chose to ignore the craving and keep reminding myself of how much burden and responsibility I would put on myself for having a marriage. I am scared that I might become another bear who constantly complains about how stupid I am to choose that person to spend my life with. Story 9. I don't look autistic, but it affects how I communicate. But I've been accused of mansplaining and being interrogative. In my mind, I was agreeing with you and not explaining why you are wrong, but explaining where my misunderstanding came from. And I'm not interrogating you. You made a moral/value/logical statement that seems self-contradictory or at odds with what I perceive to be the rest of your belief structure, statements. I have a very intelligent sister, but she will say things, and when I ask her, I get responses like, "I don't know," and even once, "It's a slippery slope." To me, it just looks like the person leaves themselves unexamined and gets upset when someone else expects them to understand their own belief structures. Edit. I consider myself single. I am not romantically involved, but I have a play partner for kink stuff. The women in my life who have gotten to know me find me compassionate, reliable, and safe, but I am weird. Story 10. I'm in a situation I don't fully trust, and I don't even want to try dating until I'm in a safe, reasonable, drug-free, and stable community. I was raised to need social encouragement and supportive, like-minded people to feel safe enough to even exist. Decades of intentional repression in fearful environments. I refuse to date anyone who smokes, does any sort of drugs at all. While I conceptually don't mind a person who celebrates with a reasonable amount of alcohol, I refuse to date anyone who relaxes with alcohol. I'd rather not be with a drinker. I'm straight edge. I hope for a straight edge partner. I have high standards for people who align with my values. Story 11. Recently got out of a 3.5-year-long relationship. I know that's not super long, but I'm in my early 20s and it's the first relationship that went for longer than 6 months. We both struggled, but especially her. She isolates and gets incredibly overwhelmed by any social contact when she is stressed. Eventually, I barely heard from her and it kinda killed it. In the end, it came down to this. Either she would have to push her boundaries all the time, or I would have to ignore my needs all the time. There was almost never a spot we were both comfortable anymore, so one of us would always be suffering. We still loved each other, but it just wasn't something we could salvage. I want to get back out there, but I feel so burned out on love. Story 12. Got out of a 4.5-year-long relationship right at the tail end of my PhD. So while I was finishing things up there, I wasn't able to commit the time or energy to emotionally. Now I'm in a point in my career where I move around basically every year, so it's hard to feel like I can lock into one place and commit to anything substantial. That, and the only person that feels worth it to commit to lives overseas. Story 13. Why am I currently single? Let's see. I'm in a horrible physical shape, as in very overweight. I'm in a bad mental shape, as in pretty depressed. I spend all my time at work, where there's literally nobody who I could be with even if I wanted to, and I ignored the usual advice of not to defecate where I eat, or at home. I have one good friend who lives in another city, and one May friend who I could theoretically see often, but I don't really feel like going out with them too often, which means I can't meet anyone through my friends. And arguably the biggest thing, lack of effort. I am not putting in any sort of effort into meeting someone. Because of the way I look, I automatically assume that nobody would ever be even remotely interested in me, which is a hill I am willing to die on. And because of that, I just don't even try. It's a vicious circle. Story 14. Because I work in a male-dominated field, I am myself a straight male. My hobbies are also male-dominated. I do not know how to approach women. I am borderline freakishly tall and awkward. And the last thing I would want to do is make someone feel scared, uncomfortable, and frankly, everything I see about modern dating culture scares me and makes me want to go dig a hole and hide in it. Story 15. I always say I have issues, which I do and want to resolve, but that doesn't mean I don't have crushes. Each time I was too scared to confess, so I did what I do best and befriend the person. I do that with every crush, and through talking to them, I realize I had no shot. I learn they have partners, are arrow, ace, or just not looking to date. The upside is that I gain new friends, but the downside is that I have to work past those feelings to be the best possible friends, which is always hard. TLDR. I have shit to work through, but I still strike out before even getting up to the pitch. Story 16. I was bullied as a kid, and my parents never really knew how to handle that emotionally. Instead of making me feel loved, they just tried to make the bullying stop. They did their best, I guess. But the end result was me developing an avoidant personality disorder. Despite that, I did have my share of relationships between 18 and 22, the last of which was abusive. She mainly abused me mentally, but at times physically as well. Eventually, she broke up with me. Best thing she ever did for me. And for years, I didn't trust myself to not send up with a girl like that again, so I avoided dating. By the time I was ready to date again, I had no idea how. At that point, I was 30, lived in a new town where I know no one except my coworkers, and all of my hobbies are solo and indoors. I met some women online over the years and had a few dates, quotes because I'm not sure they would have called them dates. But in the end, none of them was even remotely interested. By 38, I had basically given up. I hated the idea of growing old alone, but I mostly made peace with it. That's when one of the girls I'd been playing an online game with for half a year started flirting with me, something that never happened to me before. We ended up going really fast, really quickly, and as I should have expected, but somehow didn't, that ended with her driving the both of us into a wall, mentally speaking. She decided overnight she wanted her ex back and literally went from calling me perfect for her to telling me I was never that special within a few hours. She proceeded to basically ignore me and pretend nothing ever happened between us, despite her promise we would always be friends. So in the end, I even had to leave the gaming group I was in to get away from that. It didn't help much. I'm 40 now, and it's been almost 18 months since she broke me, and I'm still in pieces. There's a small, bright side to this story. I started doing all kinds of scary stuff because of what happened. I went into therapy because of her. I started a diet and lost a lot of weight. I started getting out more, though pretty much always on my own. I went to the doctor and dentist for the first time in years, and I'm even in the process of getting my wisdom teeth removed, something that has scared me for decades. I started doing all these things for her, but when she turned out to be an absolute asshole, I decided to keep doing them for me. The annoying part is that despite all this hard work and honestly great results, I'm still single with no idea how to even change that. Dating apps are awful, and those seem to be my only option considering my set of solo hobbies and the fact that I don't play online games anymore. Story 17. I ended up becoming comfortable with my own company. There's no drama. Plus, if I'm completely honest, I'm not typically handsome in any way. It's hard to attract a partner if you're not attractive. I think my personality is pretty great, but that only goes so far. It's so much work to get someone to see you for you when you have to rely on personality alone. It is what it is. Story 18, because I want it all. I want to be a stay-at-home wife. I want to be treated like a princess, and I crave for a man who also wants to be treated like a king. Unfortunately, it's incredibly difficult to find someone who wants to work on a relationship like this. You have to commit your all. It's a full-time job, and most men are not willing to put in this kind of effort or able to be emotionally available enough to make such a relationship work long-term. The stay-at-home wife part is difficult as well. It's hard to find someone who can afford it in this economy. And I'm not a model. I'm just a normal girl, and men with money seem to only want incredibly good-looking girls. If you're just a normal chick, then you're a gold digger. It's painful to keep high standards and to be seen as a shallow woman for it. I wish more men would understand how we are biologically wired to feel safe, protected, and provided for. Story 19. Because I'm weird and get told that by those I do end up trusting enough to open up to. I love kawaii neko aesthetics on women and want to build my future partner a cute kawaii setup, for example. And that gets me judged by women, and I've been told by many that I'll die alone. I figure I'll keep searching because settling is far worse. I'd rather have a chance to be happy than wish, and hopefully one day I'll find that person I can make happy too, and we both win. Story 20. The honest answer is I've found peace for the time being. I am on a roll with getting things important to me done that will eventually pay off towards a potential family. I'm still young and not too worried about it. With the time passing, I just haven't noticed how long it's been since I've been not single. I'm open to it if anything I value come my way, but for now, I have my head in the game. Story 21. I have severe emotional issues and major insecurities. I've never been able to connect with a girl. Going to a high school with mostly boys probably didn't help either. I'm now a 20-year-old virgin with serious insecurities and an insatiable desperation to meet a girl. I've also started to gain some weight, and let's be real, nobody wants a 20-year-old virgin with a dad bod. I'm soon to evaluated for BDP. The last couple of years I've gone from feeling somewhat pathetic to completely losing it. This year I introduced myself to self-mutilation, and if I didn't still live with my parents I would absolutely self-hospitalize myself. Now, I have absolutely no idea how women think, and I find them to be quite confusing sometimes. I believe these are what you would call massive red flags, which means my chances are low to ever find a match. Even if there was any girl who could put up with that, they would probably never know of my existence. And if I would have to get my already non-existent confidence ruined by 1,000 girls just to find someone willing to give me a chance, I just wouldn't be strong enough to go through that. Now, I doubt anyone bothered to read all of that, but if God bless you, you did and feel like giving me tips or constructive criticism on how to improve, please don't. Every day I wake up, I tell myself I'm doing everything wrong, so whatever you have to say, I've definitely said it to myself 1,000,000 times before. Last couple of days have been so, though, I don't think I can take it anymore. I told myself I would wait till after the summer when I move out or leave for college to see what an adult life could have in store for me, but if I keep feeling this pain much longer, I think I'm not going to survive through the end of the summer. I've also read about people on here that are in the same position as me, but 30, 40 years old instead, and I'm terrified but convinced that is where I'm heading. So if you ever feel weak or pathetic, just know there's a 20-year-old loser about to kill himself because he can't get laid. Talk about being a drama queen. I know. I doubt anyone will ever read this. If they do, they will probably find it so triggering they will report it, or so pathetic and cringe they will downvote it. I'm sorry if that's how you'd feel reading this. You are free to leave a hate comment or criticize me if that makes you feel better. Story 22. Sure, I'll tell you, random stranger on the internet. I am not confident in myself, but I have been working out recently and am making decent progress. I have never dated before, and am at the point where my parents expect grandkids. My mom also made sure I never dated growing up, so I always stayed away from stuff like this. I'm not interested in dating now either. Yes, I'd love a companion and get married, but I don't know if I can show my commitment and keep up with mundane adulting stuff. Furthermore, I have a job that is taking up most of my time, and I don't know if I can handle both growing my career and my family. I am admittedly a very westernized individual in a very Eastern-cultured country. Does that even make sense? So I can't find anyone I can relate to, but I am not trying to find one either. My parents don't have the smoothest of marriages, and I fear my future companion would be very incompatible with me. On the plus side, I have learned how to be supportive and understanding, but have no experience in anything, so I'm still not comfortable. My immediate future isn't uncertain. I plan to move to another country soon, but at the same time, I need to get married as well. Do I marry here, or look for somebody over there? What I think is the best option is to wing it. Yeah, it's reckless, but learning how to adapt to such situations is part of learning and growing up. But again, I'm not comfortable. Story 23. I get avoided like the plague, and if anyone did actually like me, they didn't tell me, and I only find out years later from a third party. And I sort of come to realize that they never told me because of, I guess, a sense of shame. I'm not sure if I'm generally viewed as weird by the general public, but it seems like women have been ashamed to have had feelings for me. At least that was the case when I was in school. I haven't met anyone lately that would have enough time to potentially develop feelings for me, so as for my adult life, I guess I just haven't met too many people. And because of my job, I mainly interact with moms/married women. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.